Hello, and we're here today to have a special conversation with the lovely Selena. And Selena's from www.Teas.com.au. And I met Selena at a work function a little while ago and absolutely fell in love with her teas. So Selena, tell me a little bit about what you do.
Thank you, Sonia, and it's been a great pleasure talking to you. It's certainly a great fun connecting with all these different people in Partner Up, and you are, of course, one of them. It happens to be my neighbor sitting right next to you, so it's been a great joy actually talking to you and getting to know mindful living, which is just such an important thing these days. And I come from Teas.com.au, as you mentioned. My husband and I set up the business about 10 years ago selling loose leaf tea. We see that in the Australian market, there are definitely a lot of tea drinkers, but, it's actually still quite a young market in terms of drinking better quality, the leaf tea stuff. And there are just so many, tea nowadays, I mean, the word tea is just so loosely defined these days. You can just go and grab a bit of plant, put it in a cup and just, pour in hot water and you got tea. So, it's really definitely a really interesting educational journey for us as well. And I guess it's really interesting too, running the website, comparing to a shop. Some people feel a bit embarrassed going into a shop asking certain silly questions, versus on the website, they just, shoot us something. And in a way, it's actually really great for us. People actually come to us and ask some of these questions. Perhaps they're a little bit embarrassed to ask, face to face. So it becomes, another way for us to learn about, what people are looking for out there and what weird and wonderful things people are drinking or using tea for. Yes. It's fascinating. Yeah.
Right.
So it's been great. Yeah.
Excellent. Would you mind if I shared how we met?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I just think it was really gorgeous. I was on my way to a seminar, a business seminar, and I was sitting on the train and I was a little bit bored. And I was just checking some of my old emails from a couple of months ago, and I found one that I hadn't actually read, and it was from a friend of mine, Simone Novello, and she had sent me this link to a tea company, and she said, I think you might like this, because she knows that I'm an avid tea drinker. I love my tea, all different types. So I opened it up, and it was a beautiful ebook. Now, the ebook just took me by surprise. It was so colourful and so informative that I read it from start to finish on the train trip on the way to this seminar.
Oh, good.
Anyway, I was so impressed by that I think I shared it with a few people on the train. And then when I got to the business seminar, I sat down next to this lovely lady and I said, so what do you do? And you said, I do tea. And I went, oh. And then I said, what company are you from? And you told me the name of Teas.com.au. And I said, you're kidding. I just read your ebook on the way to this seminar. And it was amazing. I absolutely loved it. And so it was quite a wonderful coincidence. And actually, I don't believe in coincidences. I believe that everything happens for a reason. And I was so thrilled to actually meet the author of that lovely ebook. So thank you.
Thank you. And it's great to actually hear people actually talking about, how they enjoy reading the book, because sometimes I think for a lot of us, we're putting out a lot of value, and sometimes, you question yourself, are they really worthwhile doing? Like when we first put out the ebook along with the subscription opt-in on the homepage, we forgot to actually say, hey, this is a really valuable book that has got like 30 odd pages. It's not just an A4 sheet kind of thing.
Yes.
And we just, we actually undersell ourselves sometimes. We are our worst friend in a way, If we treat our friend like that, we probably, don't get any friends. And it's just one of those really interesting things. And a lady actually said, you should actually say it's a 32-page book, And I'm like, oh, yeah, true, And, yeah, again, it's just giving our value and actually receiving feedback, and, that's just really, really great. And hearing you actually sharing it with others, it's actually saying to me that, yes, it's great value. Oh, yes.
I actually have a copy of one of your books right here. And I must say, I have them scattered through the house now because I just love them. They're so colourful and so informative. And I've learnt more about tea in the last 4 weeks than I've ever known before. So, yes, I really encourage everyone who's watching this to get over to Teas.com.au, which is Selena's website, and have a look at the massive range that she has there. Now let's talk a little bit about your range, Selena, because I know you have all the usual types of tea, but you've also got some very unusual types of tea too. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, sure. Well, we've got about 150 different kinds of tea, starting from English breakfast to your green tea to some of the lesser known like white tea, oolong, herbals, and of course there are a lot of weird and wonderful flavors nowadays. Like when we first come across chocolate black tea, we kind of think, really?
So I love that one. I love that one. It's so delicious. Anyway, go on.
yeah, totally. And that's just it. We actually, having massive fun when we are doing a lot of these blends and just giving it a go. I guess I've always been a bit of an experimenter. My first lab rat was my brother, unfortunately, when I was probably around 12 or 13. And it was the first time I went to the supermarket and bought a bottle of blue coloring. And I just, the food coloring, and I didn't really have much to use it for, but I really wanted to do something. And in the fridge there was orange juice. So I put a couple of drops of the blue coloring into the orange juice and gave it to my brother. He just looked at us like, what? What did you do? I said, no, it's just orange juice. It's all right. It's perfectly harmless, I've always been a bit like that, and so I think he really, know it by there that, I'm not good at chemistry. I always get 24 out of 50. I just can't pass it. But at the same time, I love cooking, and my husband comes from the hospitality background, so we're just really having a blast, and just playing with all these different kinds of tea. And of course, nowadays, people are also really keen on not just staying in that purest form. I mean, there is definitely importance in, enjoying certain tea in its purest form, like white tea, quite a few of them, or Darjeeling, some of them are better on their own. But there are certain other tea that is just fantastic, like chamomile goes really well with apple pieces. They just enhance each other. The chocolate, going with black tea, it's been something that we experimented a lot, because often we find, like when you think about chocolate, you think about that creamy, rich, velvety texture. And without the good old fat, it's actually quite hard to reproduce that chocolate result. So we actually played around with a lot of different flavors, and finally we find one that is natural. And we put onto the black tea, and it gives you that sort of dark chocolate flavor, but without that creaminess. So because of that, we're being a bit, pedantic. Well, I didn't really want to call it chocolate because, again, the word chocolate attached to certain kind of that roundness in the mouth. So we actually went for cocoa instead of chocolate. So there are things like that we are really playing with. And of course, we all shop with our eyes. If you go to a tea shop and you look at, let's just say, a tea called lemon black tea, and the whole jar is just black tea, nothing else, you kind of like, okay, then there got to be some flavor in it. But just imagine if there are actually calendula petals in it, something that has got a dash of green and green and yellow and things like that. It just sort of helps, because we all shop with our eyes, and that sort of thing is certainly these days people are really looking for. So we go into the business thinking about what we like when we walk into a shop, and not just purely looking at the quality of the tea. Obviously that's important, but also looking at how to how to bring that tea and that sensory experience together. And I think after doing this for about 10 years now, there are also certain things that we realize that, the tea drinking is very much about giving ourselves that chance to sit down and really observe that tea and just give that tea, that few minutes, that it deserves, and the break that you deserve. And it's something that we've been talking a lot. And I think that's why, Sonia, you and I have got this, sort of instant connection, because there's that mindfulness that is so important when you're enjoying that cup of tea. And some people actually say tea drinkers are a lot calmer, a lot more creative than coffee drinkers.
Do you hear that, coffee drinkers out there? You got to switch to tea.
and there are closet tea drinkers too. There's some people, because people kind of think, oh, drinking tea, that's something that you enjoy with your mom and your grandma. It's not trendy, it's not hip. You don't go out and hang around with your girlfriend over a cup of tea. But in fact, it is totally possible to make it hip. It's just that the market hasn't quite gone to that level. If you think about, there is iced coffee, there is avocado, the coffee with a big dollop of ice cream, in it, with a sort of espresso type of coffee. You can do the same thing. I mean, we've in fact actually played around with recipes, and we come up with avocado, which is basically, a dollop of vanilla ice cream in your glass, and pour in this chai, without the milk, just pour in the chai. Yeah, it's just totally deliciously evil. But, it's just stuff like that. People just haven't quite got to it yet. And we're just saying, yeah, it actually can be very modern, can be very cool,
Well, actually, that's what makes you more unique than a lot of the other tea companies out there, Selena, is that you have really experimented. You've done your homework. You've traveled the world looking at different teas and how they're made and all the rest of it. And not only do you go into so much detail in your books about the teas, but you have some wonderful recipes here, which I thought were just delightful. And a couple of these I've vowed that I'm going to have a go at. So let me see. Chai granita.
Yeah. Oh, that's delicious. Yeah.
And you have a whole section on matching teas to different foods.
Food, yeah.
So, for example, banana bread goes very well with English breakfast tea. But if you're having a spaghetti bolognese, you could have a so-mi white tea. And that goes very well together. Or if you're having chocolate cake, you could have puer. Is that how you say it?
Puer, yeah.
Puer.
Yeah.
And look, you've got a whole list of pairing notes here, which I just think is just so unique and so wonderful. Tea and food matching. So
absolutely.
Tell me a little bit more about the recipes that you have that incorporate tea in them.
Well, the tea itself, to a lot of us, have been just a drinking thing, but in some culture, they actually been using it like a food. So, for example, over in the southwest region of China, Mongolia way, they don't eat a lot of veggies. It's a very meat-focused diet. So the tea actually becomes the vegetable for them.
Right.
And in fact, they don't just kind of drink it like normal. They actually kind of almost turn it into a soup, a broth. And they put, yak butter and all that kind of stuff in it. So it's definitely quite a different beast. The Japanese are also doing something sort of similar, but like sometimes they may have, a plain sushi, doesn't have much in it. It's just just think about like a rice ball. And then they just pour a little bit of hot green tea around it. Especially when you're under the weather, you need a little bit of substance, but you don't really want to eat, anything too heavy. So from there, you can definitely see there's a lot of recipes or a lot of room for experiment. Chinese has got a particular dish that is well known way before I even, think about, working with tea. And this dish is using a particular green tea called Dragon Well or Long Jing. And they actually stir-fry prawns with it.
Wow.
So yeah, it's amazing. Some of the tea just it just impart this really lovely fragrance. And some of the tea, when you cook with it, especially because, of the heat in the cooking process, it might disappear some of that taste and that fragrance. So there's definitely that challenge of, do you want it for digestive reason? And in that case, you probably can forgo, that absolute tea fragrance as such. You can just kind of say, okay, I'm just eating it, for digestive reason, and just think about it like a vegetable.
And that actually brings me to my next point, Selena, is not only does tea taste delicious and is also a very social kind of thing to do, but it also has incredible health benefits. And I know just the normal ranges of tea have got antioxidants. They're loaded with antioxidants and tannins. But you're just introducing a new range of tea at the moment, aren't you? The Ayurvedic properties?
Yeah, the Ayurvedic tea. So that's basically based on the Ayurveda Indian principles of lifestyle. In fact, like when we talk about a lot of these ancient semi-medicinal cultures, they're actually not really talking about medicine as such. That's kind of almost like a modern term comparatively. Because in the old days, they really talking about what you eat is what you are. Yes. So, like if you drink tea, like, for me, I drink tea every day now, and I don't get a lot of colds and flu and all that stuff. And that's just it. You're not really thinking about, oh shucks, I have to drink this in order, to cure my ills. It's not quite like that. It's actually going back to prevention and maintenance. And Ayurveda is quite similar in that nature, that it's talking about the body as made up of three constitution, or they call it dosha. And when these three things are imbalanced, then you may feel grumpy, you may feel sick, you may feel scared, upset, there's something just not quite clicking. It's quite similar to, if people are familiar with, the Chinese culture about yin and yang, everybody has got that yin yang thing going on. And again, it's all about balance. It's not so much about medicine as such. So the Ayurvedic range, we have been a fairly popular Ayurvedic range, but we want to make it better. So we've been working with a herbalist who actually practice Ayurveda medicine and lifestyle, really. And she's, just giving them a little bit of a tweak and making them tasting a little better, because the old ones, some of them are really good, but it's like some of the, good medicine, they taste bad.
Yes.
So they are a bit herby, so we just sort of trying to make them a little bit more enticing to drink. So definitely it's been great fun, working with a lot of other people from, looking at what you put in the body from a different perspective. And again, just really actually seeing it more like a lifestyle, not so much of, my God, I have to drink 5 cups of this every day, in order to stay healthy. It's not that kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful. Look, one of my favourite herbal teas at the moment, which I've just found and really, really enjoy, is rooibos tea, which comes from the red bush. Are you able, I know that it has just so many health benefits. Are you able to touch on some of those at the moment?
Sure, yeah. Well, actually, I have a relatively personal experience with that, because my husband is South African. So when I first knew rooibos, it was actually over 20 years ago when I first knew him. And the way I knew him the way I knew rooibos is actually because when he's under the weather, that's what he go for. It's a bit like chicken soup for him. And he doesn't actually use it like, brewing a pot of tea. He actually get his little saucepan out and put a rooibos in and hot water and actually boil it. And after that, he will put fresh mint and a bit of honey, sometimes a slice of lemon.
Honey.
Yeah. It's fantastic. And that's the thing about rooibos too. Rooibos is actually very versatile, because later on I met some other South African and they said, no, that's not the way I drink it. I drink it like black tea, with milk and sugar.
Yes.
I'm like, oh, okay.
Yes.
And you just find all these different, way of drinking it. And rooibos is, it's kind of black tea-like, but caffeine-free. It's a herbal tea. And so a lot of people who have been wanting to get out of the black tea, routine, but still want to stay with that sort of milk and sugar ritual every morning, actually can move on to drinking rooibos. And rooibos is it's really good for a lot of reasons. It calms the body, and it's not just about adults. Babies actually are okay to drink it too. My husband said actually when he was young, when he was still in Africa, that's what he was actually fed, because back in those days milk was scarce, quality not that all that great, and so they actually drink a lot of rooibos. So rooibos actually helps colic and also just general sort of tummy, discomfort, whether you're old or young. A very relaxing blend. I have given it to our kids, 5 and 3 year old. They actually, they're pretty good with it, They would actually sometimes ask for a second, especially if I put honey and milk in it.
Well, that's how I drink it, with honey and milk, and it is just delicious. I love it. I can't get enough of it. So,
absolutely.
And I read some research recently that it's good for the brain and anti-aging and warding off Alzheimer's and things like that. So
plenty of reason to drink rooibos, and I do find it is actually quite relaxing as a before bed cup, especially for people, again, going back to a lot of standard tea drinkers, before bed, they don't really want to drink normal tea, but then they really want to have something kind of quite flavorful. If you give them a cup of chamomile, they just kind of go, So rooibos is actually quite good for that. Just relaxes the body.
I do think that's a rather special tea, actually. It's one of my favourites at the moment. And apparently it can lower blood pressure, lowers cholesterol, it keeps your digestive system working beautifully. Like you said, it's a calmative, so it can help you sleep at night. It's a great stress buster. And I tell you what, when I'm wanting to sit down and have a bit of time in mindfulness, it's the rooibos tea at the moment that I'm grabbing, and all I do is just add a bit of milk and a bit of honey. Oh, it's just so nice. But then I know people who love it, just plain black rooibos tea, and they enjoy it just as much. So that's great, Selena. You are just such a wealth of information, and I just really want to encourage the people who come to my website to check you out, Selena, and go to her website. If you go to www.Teas.com.au, you will find an area on that website where you can opt in to get your very own tea ebook, and it kind of looks a little like this, and it will give you so much information, and it's very visually stimulating as well, and I've just learnt so much from your writing. So thank you so much,
awesome.
Selena.
Thank you so much, Sonia. It's been a great pleasure talking to you, and just getting to know, and other tea lovers out there, what they're looking for and what they love, their personal experience, and just giving, that tea drinking time a special little slot in your day. We're all way too busy, and we all, seem to just go on, endlessly multitasking. And sometimes it's just great. Just sit down, just enjoy that cup of tea before it gets cold. Don't do anything else. Just focus on just giving yourself that little breather.
And being mindful, which brings me to my next thought. I would love to do another video interview with you, Selena, where we can sit down and practice being mindful over a cup of tea, so we can show our peeps, if you like, we can show them what it's like to actually engage in a mindful exercise through drinking tea. Would you be prepared to do that?
Yeah, that sounds great. I mean, it is certainly, something that I think too many of us are too busy these days. So just having someone to guide you over just, how to just calm down, especially the first few times, just really actually having someone, holding your hand almost, in a way, and just say, you can let go now.
Absolutely. Let go, sit down, relax, smell the roses, or the tea in this case, and have a very cathartic experience. So I'm really looking forward to joining with you again, Selena, so that we can sit down and do tea together and practice some mindfulness.
Absolutely.
All right.
Sounds good.
Great. Well, thanks again, everybody, for joining in today. And thanks so much to you, Selena, for joining us. And I love to pick your brains on everything that you do. So, yeah, awesome. Excellent. All right. Great. And, of course, if anybody wants to come and check out my website as well, it's www.sonia, with a J, Keller, KELLER.com.au. And I've got some mindfulness goodies there for you as well. But more on that in the next episode.
Thanks, Sonia. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.